learning and upskilling. Whether you're a student aiming to learn today's top skills or a working professional looking to advance your career, we've got you covered. Explore our impressive catalog of certification programs in cutting-edge domains, including data science, cloud computing, cybersecurity, AI, machine learning, or digital marketing. Designed in collaboration with leading universities and top corporations, and delivered by industry experts, choose any of our programs and set yourself on the path to career success. Click the link in the description to know more.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.
Will gain knowledge and work-ready expertise in skills like search engine marketing, strategies for paid campaigns, analytics ROI and evaluation, and over a dozen others. And that's not all. You also get the opportunity to work on multiple projects and learn from industry experts working in top-tier product companies and academicians from top universities. After completing these courses, thousands of learners have transitioned into a digital marketing role as a fresher or moved on to a higher-paying job role and profile. If you are passionate about digital marketing and want to make your career in this field, then make sure to check out the link in the pinned comment and description box to find a digital marketing program that fits your experience and areas of interest.
Search engine optimization. We're going to go through a series of questions and I'm going to answer those questions for you. Okay, so the first question that you might be asked in an interview is differentiate between do follows and no follows. Okay, so if you've taken or listened to my SEO courses on YouTube for SEO, we talked a lot about do follows and no follows. And simply put, I mean, do follows are just signals to the search engines to follow the link. So there's a link on site A pointing to site B. We're going to basically tell Google, Bing, and some of these other search engines, hey, go ahead and follow that link. Now, a no-follow is just the opposite. So no-follow link doesn't allow the search engine crawlers to follow it. So if we have a link on our site, site A, pointing to site B, we can put a no-follow tag in there. And what that's going to do, it's going to signal to the crawlers, hey, don't follow this link. So in the end, if the crawlers don't follow the link, then there's not going to be any link juice passed. And so Google is not going to give you credit or give that site credit for having a link pointing to it or pointing to another site or from another site. And so it's all about linking. So we can control if there's links on our site, whether we want the crawlers to recognize those or not, simply with no follow tags. So just a reminder, link juice is the reputation or equity passed from one website to another. So if you have a link on another website and that website is of high quality, meaning their page authority, their domain authority is high, they have a lot of content, they're not spammy, they're really rich and they're relevant, then you may want to make sure that the link pointing from that site to your site is a no follow. So that way that Google can recognize the link from that site to your site. And basically that reputation is going to be passed on to you. Okay, so that's a do follow versus a no follow. And why would we do a no follow? Well, it depends. It really depends. A lot of social media platforms like Facebook have no follows. If you have a lot of content, you may not want to be pushing out a lot of do follows. It could actually look bad from an external linking standpoint. And so a lot of sites are really particular about who they want to pass link juice onto and give credit for the link. So it's a business decision at the end of the day. There's really no hard, fast rule here, except from an SEO perspective, if I have a site and I have a lot of external links pointing outward to other sites, I'm going to be particular about who I allow the search engine to follow and what links I allow not to follow. Okay. So here's an example of what they look like. So do follow is simply just the href. Notice the no follow has the tag appended to it, the href tag with a no follow. So if the search engine's crawling your site and they see that no follow there, they're not going to follow that link, and vice versa. If there's a link on another site pointing to yours and there's a no follow there, you're not going to get credit. The search engines aren't going to pick up that link. Okay, so question 2, what is 301 redirect and how is it different from a 302 redirect? So 301 redirects tell users in the search engine specifically that an original page has been moved, and this is the key word here, permanently. So permanently moved. We're going to explain that in a minute. So it's just moved from one page to another. And so if we don't have a page anymore, but we have a new page, let's just say you built a new website with new URLs, you want to make sure the old page is pointing to the new page with a 301 redirect. So if a 301 redirect is permanent, then a 302 is temporary. So we want the search engines to recognize that we have 301 permanent redirects in place. Why? Because if we have temporary, then it might alert Google to not keep that page in its search engine rankings because it's temporary. So why would Google want to keep a temporary page or even a page that is pointing to another page on a temporary basis? So they may remove both pages from its index. Okay, but if we have something permanent in place, Google may say, okay, this page is permanently linking to another page or redirecting to another page. Therefore, it's stable, it's permanent. We're going to keep that new page in the index and eventually remove the old page. So really, something permanent is more stable in the eyes of the search engine. Something temporary may not be as stable in the eyes of, say, Google. And if they don't see it as stable, then they may remove both pages from the index. Okay, so the idea is we want to be found in Google Search Index, and we get it. Sometimes pages go away for a variety of reasons. And if it does go away, just make sure you have a new page for it. And that new page is a 301 permanent redirect. Okay, so question 3. Why are backlinks important in SEO? Well, we kind of hinted on that a bit with the nofollow. Because if we have a link from another website pointing to ours, and that link from that other website is really relevant, and it has a high page and domain authority, then it's going to benefit us. And so backlinks are important because if we have backlinks from high quality sites, it's going to improve the credibility of our site, especially if it's a do follow tag. So the search engines are going to recognize the relationship between the site that has a link pointing to us. Okay, so it's just going to build our credibility. It's going to increase our domain authority. And then the net effect of that is if we're credible and we have high domain authority, then that's going to increase the rankings of our pages. And when the pages increase in ranking, then we're going to get more of a lion's share of the traffic for certain keywords that our pages are found for. And if our pages are found and getting traffic, then because we have increased rankings, we're likely going to have increased traffic. And then it's just a snowball effect. So more traffic leads to more engagement and conversions. So the whole idea for SEO is, remember, you have an on-page strategy and an off-page strategy. Building external links is part of an off-page SEO strategy, and we want to make sure that we are relevant in the form of a link or in the form of content on other high-quality sites. Being on a high-quality site only benefits us because, again, increases our domain authority. Google sees us as more relevant. Therefore, our pages are going to benefit by ranking higher, and therefore, when we rank higher, we get more traffic. So it's a snowball effect. So having backlinks is important because it snowballs all the way through to conversions. Okay, so what are the best practices to rank your videos on YouTube? So it's a great question, really great question. Given the importance of videos, especially with SEO, because videos are found. YouTube in itself is a search engine. So if we have a video, how are we going to get it to rank on YouTube? Well, first things first, you never want to put a video out there and want it to rank if it's not engaging or informative. So make sure you go ahead and follow the best practices of having engaging and informative content in your video. Now, once you have that video in place, you want to optimize it. And then some of the key factors for optimizing the video are, you want to choose a title that has high search volume and low difficulty. Just as you would keyword, for example, for a web page, you want to choose a title with a keyword in it that has high volume and low difficulty, i.e. low competition. Okay, so you want a nice ratio there. And you know what? You want to choose a title that's going to get people to watch the video too. So it's not all about just choosing a title just for the sake of high volume. You also have to choose something that's relevant, that's going to be catchy as well. And then with that title goes the description. So you want a description that's very relevant to your title, okay? Because most people aren't going to click on a video just for the sake of the title. They're going to want to probably get a sneak peek via the description of what it is. So again, you want to optimize that description, but make sure the description is just as snazzy as the title. Okay, you also want to use accurate and relevant video tags, just as you would on Twitter or Facebook. Tag these videos. Okay, so make sure your title tag length doesn't exceed 100 characters because it will get chopped off. So again, that goes back to just writing something really short and to the point that's going to grab somebody's attention. Okay, you also want to upload a captivating thumbnail, something that's relevant, that's going to grab somebody's attention. And then again, we set it similar to the video tags. We want to use relevant hashtags. Again, just as you would with Twitter and Facebook, go ahead and throw some hashtags in there that people could see because people search via hashtagging. And then this goes without saying, you did all the work, created a really great video. It's engaging, it's informative, you optimized it. Feel free to promote your video on other social media platforms. Okay, don't just stick with YouTube per se. So the benefit here is if you post it on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever platform of your choice and it gets engagement, people click on the link, go to YouTube, they're going to like it, and then other people are going to see that engagement. They're going to see how many people liked it or how many subscribers you have. So promote your videos to help you with the ranking of the video on YouTube. So that does play into it. So go ahead and promote it so other people can watch it, like it, comment, etc. And that's going to engage other people to want to do the same. So what is mobile first indexing? This is a really important and timely question. Mobile first indexing means Google's just using mobile friendly content for indexing and ranking websites. So in other words, Google, for example, has two bots. They have the traditional desktop bot and they have a smartphone bot. And eventually everybody that has a website is going to be migrated over to the smartphone bot. And so if that smartphone bot goes to your website and starts crawling, what do you think they're looking for? Their smartphone bot, they're looking for mobile friendly content. If it's not mobile friendly, meaning the page isn't designed for a smartphone browser, or let's just say the images are way too large, or you have to expand the text just to read it. You know, a lot of these issues that somebody would have just simply trying to read something on a web page on their mobile device, Google's not going to grab that content. So you want to make sure it's mobile friendly so it gets indexed. And so if your website has a responsive design, Google will rank your website based on its performance on mobile devices. Okay, so you want to make sure that your website is mobile friendly. And if you're in an interview and somebody asks you this question, you could even take it a step further and say, look, I'm going to measure how friendly my website is for mobile devices in Google Search Console. Because Google Search Console has a report that will show you what pages on your website are not mobile friendly. And it's not a guarantee, but I could tell you if I'm Google and I'm crawling your site with my smartphone bot and that page or one of my pages is not mobile friendly, I'm probably not going to index it or rank it. So you want to leverage that report in Google Search Console to see what pages are mobile friendly. So that's a little bonus for you to really impress the interviewer who asked you this question. Because how are you going to know if one of your pages is mobile friendly or not if you don't look at a report? So keep an eye on Google Search Console's mobile usability report. Okay, number 6. List down the most important local SEO ranking factors. Okay, so organic local ranking is just as important as anything else in organic search. Because if you have a local business, you want to use the likes of, say, Google My Business to show up when somebody types in, looking for a florist or you're looking for a coffee shop. So what you want to do is you want to create a web page for every product and service. Okay, you also want to opt for your business listings on Google My Business. And there are plenty of other local business directories out there like Yelp, for example, or Bing even has one. So go ahead and also make sure you have a business listing as well. But since Google in the United States has a huge market share, you want to start with Google first. You want to update your NAP citations on your website, maintain consistency of your NAP. Okay, so NAP is name, address, phone number. So you want to make sure that that's current and consistent. So if you have a number on your website, make sure it's the same number on Google My Business. Okay, you can embed a Google map on your website. You could certainly optimize the meta tags and content, not only on your web pages, but within your Google My Business directory. So you can add your business to other local directories, like I mentioned, Yelp. And then also, just as important, opt for reviews and ratings. Okay, so the more reviews you have, the better off you are. Okay, so I always say this with local search. 3 of the main factors in showing up for local search on, say, Google is obviously the keyword. The second is the proximity of where that person is. And then third is the reviews. So you can't really control the proximity, but you can control the keyword and you can control the reviews to some degree. So work hard at getting reviews for your business, but at the same time, you can certainly work in some keywords, let's just say for your product and service pages on your website, but also you can translate that over to Google My Business. Okay, so working in those keywords, making sure your number, your address, your name, they're all consistent. And really just spreading the business out on other directories. That's really, all these are really key factors for local SEO. Okay, so question number 7, how to avoid duplicate content, getting penalized for duplicate content. So for example, if you have 2 different versions of a web page, you may result in a duplicate content issue. So it's just SEO 101. You never want to have two or more pages with the same content. So what do? Well, we can avoid this in having Google penalize us by, again, setting up a 301 redirect. Remember, 301s are permanent. We can also use what they call a canonical tag. And a canonical tag basically alerts the search engines as to which page is the original. Okay, so if we have an original page, we want to point to that page with our canonical tag. And then the third option is opt for preferred domain in Google Search Console. Okay, so if you have multiple domains, make sure you set up a primary one in Search Console. So those are ways to work around it. Of this 3, I would always go with the canonical tags, because that's just a tag that's going to sit on the page. It's going to alert Google as to what the original is, just in case they get their hands on the duplicate. So all the pages that have the same content are going to have the same canonical tag pointing to one page. So again, 301s are permanent. You can simply just redirect one to the other if you end up having duplication, or you could just tell the search engines, hey, this is the original page, or you can go through Search Console. Okay, number 8, what are the tactics to increase a web page speed? Okay, so what are some of the tactics? Well, when you build a site, especially for mobile, you want to keep it as simple as possible. And what I mean by simple as possible, really, I mean, hey, use a simple website design. Don't get overly creative, if you will. Most websites, all websites have images. You're not going to be able to get around that, but just make sure you optimize your images. In other words, don't have such a large image size. If you don't need something very large, don't have it. Okay, you want to improve server response time. And what do we mean by that? Well, your site's sitting on a server somewhere. You can own that server, or you can be renting it out from, say, Amazon Web Services, or let's just say GoDaddy as your registrar. They also have web hosting. Well, if you have it on, say, GoDaddy's server, you may be sharing that server with other businesses. And at certain times of the day, other businesses may get a lot of traffic and suck up a lot of bandwidth. What is that going to do? That's going to reduce the server response time for your site. And so you want to make sure you have an idea of, what server your web page or website is on. And you want to be able to have some control over that. Because if your server response is slow, that's going to slow down everything else in terms of loading in the browser, and that's not going to be good for SEO. Okay, optimize your code. We mean by minifying. When we say minifying, we mean get rid of some of the redundant code. If you have CSS, get rid of the JavaScript you're not using. So that's what we mean by optimizing code. Reduce redirects. Okay, ideally, you just want to have one redirect in place. You don't want to create a daisy chain, so to speak, of redirecting and redirecting after that. That's never going to bode well, and it's going to slow things down as well. Enable browser caching. So if you enable browser caching, basically, if somebody comes back to the page they've been on, say, 2 days ago, they're probably going to see a cached version of that page. And then opt for the content delivery network as well. So these are some of the ways to reduce page speed. Now, if you're curious about the page speed of your website, you can always go to Google's PageSpeed Insights tool. And all you have to do is just Google PageSpeed Insights, or even just something generic like Google PageSpeed. And you're going to get this tool, PageSpeed Insights. And all you need to do is just plug in a URL. When you plug in the URL, Google is going to analyze the URL for both mobile and desktop. And so here we could see Google gives a score. So we could see the score for mobile and we could see the score for desktop just by clicking on desktop. And so here I could see some of the issues that the site may be having in terms of page load time for their desktop. If I flip over to mobile, here I could see some other issues. For example, they have a server static assets with efficient cache policy. Now, if you're not sure what the heck that means, you can always just click on it and you can see some specifics here. Or you can just always Google it as well. Here you got to reduce the impact of third-party code. Okay, so that's another thing. Reduce JavaScript execution time. So again, going back to some of the comments we made about coding. Okay, sometimes too much code or code not functioning as well as it should will tend to slow down the site. Okay, so you can use PageSpeed Insights. You can always get a glimpse of how pages are loading simply by also going to, for example, Google Analytics. Under Behavior, okay, you can go to Site Speed. And if you click on Overview, okay, what Google does is they do a sampling of pages over time. And in this case, based on 89 page views, they have an average page load time. And so you can get a sense of how quick specific pages load or your site overall simply by looking at the Site Speed Overview report in Google Analytics to get a sense of how quick your pages are loading. Now, there are certain factors that do affect load time. So obviously the way the page is built with the code, the images, etc., but also the browser. Each browser loads differently. Okay, so you want to take a look at it by browser, also by country. Every country has a different network. Okay, you can be in the United States and have worse network service than you do, say, in Ivory Coast in Africa. Okay, so it really depends on the network you're on. So, and also the page. Every page is built differently. So you want to get a sense of what pages are loading quicker and which pages are not. You can simply just go to page timings in Google Analytics and you get a sense of what pages do not load fast and which ones do. And maybe hone in on the pages that aren't loading fast and address those pages first. Okay, so you have two tools at your disposal, one Google Analytics and one PageSpeed Insights. Okay, so let's look at question number 9 here. So when should an individual target short tail and long tail keywords? Okay, so remember, short tail are usually 1 to 2 keywords, very broad in nature. Long tail keywords are maybe 3, 4 keywords in a query, or maybe an entire sentence. Those are considered long tail keywords. So usually short tail keywords have higher volume, but also higher competition. Longer tail keywords usually have lower volume, but also lower competition. But the great thing about long tail keywords, the conversion rate will tend to be a little bit higher than, say, a short tail because it's less vague and more specific. So you can use short tail keywords if you're trying to drive a lot of visitors because those keywords are going to be vague or broad in nature. Long tail keywords are used for targeted pages such as product pages and articles. So if you have a specific product with a long name, you can certainly optimize that page for that product name. Again, the product name may have low volume, but if somebody types in exactly that product name, you show up, the chance of them converting are going to be very high. So you don't have to always be that specific with the product name, but try and be as specific as you possibly can in order to get somebody to click on your link in the search engine results and get them over to your site to convert. Okay, so those are really the big differences. Short tail, very broad, very vague, a lot of volume, but also a lot of competition. But hey, if you're ranking for a short tail keyword, you're probably going to get a lot of traffic. The conversion rates may not be as high as something, say, long tail, where, hey, maybe you're just honed in on a few set number of products and you don't care a lot about the traffic. You just care about getting the relevant traffic to your site to convert. Okay, number 10, what are the important elements to focus while developing a website? So we're talking in terms of SEO. Okay, so if somebody asks me this question in an interview, what am I going to focus on while developing a website? Well, the answers are right here. Yes, we talked about mobile. Mobile is so important because a lot of websites are going to be indexed with Google Smartphone Bot. So mobile usability is very important. So we need to make sure our website is responsive for mobile. Just some basic practices when it comes to site architecture and navigation. We want to have a simple URL structure. Okay, no overly cumbersome. The navigation should simply be clean and neat. Okay, if you have 5 products, okay, maybe you have in your navigation, you have something called products with all 5 listed, or you have all 5 products in the main navigation. The key is you just want to make it clean and neat and easy for somebody to find. The rule of thumb is if it's good for the end user, it's probably going to be good for Google. But if it's complicated for the end user, it's probably going to be complicated for Google. You always want to create a sitemap. Now, what is that sitemap? A sitemap is simply just a formatted file that includes all your URLs and assets, your images and your videos. They're going to be sitting on your server as well. So you want Google or these bots to be able to find your pages and assets. And by the way, you want to take it a step further and make sure you upload that sitemap, which is sitting in the root directory, meaning domain.com/sitemap.xml. Okay, you want to take that sitemap and make sure you input that sitemap location in Google Search Console. That way, Google Search Console has a one-way ticket to grab the elements in the sitemap. Another important element to focus on while developing a website is having a robots text file. And all a robots text file is, it's like a lock, I always say, to a house. So if you lock a door in your house, nobody's going to be able to get in that door. So that's all a robots text file is. You're telling Google and these other bots that are coming to crawl your site what's locked and what's not locked, meaning what they have access to and what they don't have access to. So you want to be able to make sure you have a robots text file if you're trying to non-index specific pages of your website. Because if you tell Google, don't crawl these pages or this directory, they're not going to get crawled. And if they don't get crawled, they're not going to get indexed. So robots text file is an important element to focus on while you're developing your website. And while you're developing your website, it could be on in a directory just called new website. So you probably want to have new website as the directory in the robots text file, and just to let Google know, don't go into this directory because it's my new website and I'm not ready to go live yet. So you don't want it indexed. So there are a lot of reasons to have robots text files. That's the main reason. Sitemap, you want Google to get these pages and assets quickly. Okay, you want to make sure that your site architecture navigation is in order. You want to make sure your site is mobile friendly. And you also want to make sure you have content on your website. That's the key, because that's what's going to keep people on the website and engaged. And when I say content, I don't necessarily just mean words. I also mean videos. I also mean images, something interactive. Okay, you want to keep people engaged. That's the key behind it. Trust me, if an end user finds your site engaging, Google is likely going to find your site engaging. Okay, so those are good brownie points to bring up if somebody asks you this question in an interview. So just to recap here, it's important to have a better site structure so that bots can easily access and index the content. Okay, with a responsive design, helps to make your website mobile friendly and user friendly. Would also increase the amount of time a user spends on your website, which may improve your site's ranking. Sitemap is simply just a file that helps search engine bots to understand the structure of the website. Okay, how many pages are on your website and where are they located, along with the videos and images. Okay, and then the robots text just instructs the search engine crawlers to understand what pages should not be indexed. Okay, this is simply just a text file, and it's added to the root directory. Again, think like a door, think of a lock. Okay, you can lock whatever doors you want in your house. Think of it that way. Okay, so those are our questions for SEO. Again, if you have any additional questions, or if there are other questions maybe you've been asked in an SEO interview, then go ahead and add them to the comments section below. We'd love to hear from you. Now we're going to turn our attention to search engine marketing. So let's turn our full attention to search engine marketing. So we're moving away from SEO and over to pay-per-click. And so you really have to know your stuff here. You really do. So a lot of the questions we're going to ask are going to be centered around Google Ads, formerly known as Google AdWords. And so if you're familiar with Google Ads, the platform, then you should have no problems whatsoever answering these questions. But that's why we're here and that's why you're watching. So if there's anything you want to add to any of these questions, as a reminder, feel free to comment under the video. And so right out of the gate, question 11, what is ad scheduling? So ad scheduling is a feature in Google Ads. And really all it does is allow you, the advertiser, to set up certain hours or days you want your ads to show. It's as simple as that. So if you have a customer that you're running ads for on Google search, and let's just say they have a restaurant and they're closed during certain hours of the week, then you can go into the ad scheduler and schedule your ads to not show when they're closed, as an example, okay? Because if somebody calls and they're not there to answer the phone, then it's not going to be good for the restaurant or you, the advertiser. And so that's why they have the ad scheduling. So it ensures your ads are not running when they're performing poorly. Let's just say, you're running a business and you just don't get that much traffic during the weekends. Well, you can go in and adjust accordingly. It also is there to make sure you can serve your customers when you do have limited client service hours. So let's just say you have a customer service team that's going to answer phones for a couple hours a day. Well, again, you can schedule your ads to show during those couple of hours a day. And then really what it comes down to is you're making sure you can satisfy customer demand and supply. And so that means showing your ads when you can best fulfill the customer's needs. Okay. And so that's really what it's all about. And that's what ad scheduling is. So take advantage of ad scheduling. Schedule it according to the business hours, schedule according to how they can best serve the customer, schedule the ads when it's performing best. And don't schedule the ads when you know you're going to have poor performance. Okay, so next question. What are the different ad formats available on Google Ads? It's a trick question because it really does come down to what network you're advertising on. So Google has two networks, the search network and the display network. Okay, so on the search network, there's only one ad format, and that's text. Okay, so Google recently changed the format of the text ads. Now they're called expanded text ads. So here you can see you can have up to 3 headlines and 2 description lines. And then you can also have ad extensions. And so you can see here underneath the ad, you have what they call site links. So shop by category, in-ear headphones, on-ear headphones. Those are all site links to specific pages on the site. So text ads are available only on the search network, but they're also available on the display network as well. Then you have responsive display ads. Now, responsive display ads are only on Google's display network. Okay, so here you could see some samples of responsive display ads. And these ads adjust their size and format depending on the space available. So again, you could have text ads or you can have display ads. Now, display ads, again, come in different sizes. So you can create ads for a variety of different sizes. For example, 250 by 250 or 468 by 60. So those are some of the different ad types. There's a plethora of different ad sizes you can choose. However, your ad's not going to show on a website if they don't have that particular size available. So it's always best practice to create different ads, but create ads in different sizes as well. Okay, and then have a backup text ad as well, just in case the site doesn't even display a display ad for you or serve up a display ad. So you can have a text ad as a backup. Okay, so lots of different ad sizes, but this is the second ad format, and that's responsive display. And again, the responsive part is Google will automatically show the ad that's best performing based on a series of headlines, descriptions, and images that you you provide Google. And so the responsive part is, hey, if this combination of headline, description, and image work best, meaning it has the best click-through rate, then Google's going to serve up that ad. So that's why they call it responsive. So obviously you can have just an image ad that's not responsive. Again, across different ad sizes, they could be, again, 250 by 250, 300 by 300, 468 by 60. There's a number of different sizes. Google can provide you that information. But the one thing to note here is that when you do create an image ad, it could be JPEG, it could be interactive, or it could be static. So different types of image ad formats, like PNG, for example, or it could be a static, or it could be interactive. So definitely take advantage of the different opportunities, meaning a static ad versus an interactive ad. You may want to have two variations of that so you could see which one works best. Okay, there's also app promotion ads. So these ads are used to drive app downloads. So you're going to have to set up a campaign accordingly. Okay, but here you can see this is what it looks like with a call to action. So it allows you to go ahead and click and install that app. So that's an app promotion. Again, if you have an app and you want to promote it, you can use this type of ad format to align with a campaign that's driving traffic to download your app. Okay, and of course you have video ads. Well, Google owns YouTube. And so if you have videos, you have the opportunity to advertise on YouTube. Okay, so these ads can be standalone or inserted into other streaming video content. And so to me, video ads work well with specific strategies. And what's one strategy you would use a video ad for? Brand awareness or education, explainer videos. And so YouTube allows you, the advertiser, the opportunity to get your ad, your service, your product in front of a lot of eyeballs. So that's the beauty of video ads. They attract a lot of eyeballs and definitely help with the strategy of, say, brand awareness. Okay, another ad format going back to the search network is shopping ads. So if you sell shoes, then you may want to think about having a campaign for shopping. So shopping ads work with Google Merchant. So Google Merchant is another Google product, and basically Google Merchant allows you to manage your inventory. So if you have 100 different types of shoes that you're selling, you can upload your inventory to Google Merchant, connects and talks to Google Ads. So basically what you're doing, you're setting up your campaign in Google Ads and connecting your inventory from Google Merchant to Google Ads. And so the great thing about the shopping campaign is it puts your product front and center. It puts the price, it puts any promotion that you have, and it puts the brand all front and center. So when somebody does type in, let's just say lime green sneakers or women's sneakers, and this particular shoe shows up here, the third one from the left, then somebody's going to see it's from the United Colors of Benetton. It's a woman's shoe. It's on Amazon and it costs $45. So the great thing about shopping ads is if somebody's interested, they're going to click. Okay, if somebody's not interested, say, well, it's a little bit more expensive. I can get something similar, another shoe on Amazon for less. Okay, they're probably going to click on that particular ad. So again, the great thing about shopping ads, put your product front and center with any promotion, the price, the brand. So if somebody clicks on it, then they're probably serious buyers. Okay, so that's the beauty of shopping ads. It allows you to get your product out there, and on the search network, it's a cost per click. So you're only paying for the click. So if somebody looks at it but doesn't click, you're not paying for that. So that's the beauty of shopping ads. And so you can showcase your shopping ads. So these ads have an image and a description that expand when clicked. So you can provide more information, more product and store information as well. You also have call-only ads. Okay, so call-only ads are enabled to users to connect with your business directly using the phone number provided. Okay, so it allows somebody on a mobile phone who, in this example, is searching for drywall repair. Well, if you're in the business of drywall repair, you can have your ad show up on mobile with a phone number, and somebody can easily click on that phone number and just call you directly. Now, the way call-only ads work is you're still getting charged for the click. Okay, so anytime somebody clicks and calls, you're going to get charged. and you're going to get charged just as you would if somebody clicked on your ad. So it works the same way. So it's a cost per click. Again, this is on search. So search is cost per click. And the beauty about call only is, again, you can track the calls right in Google Ads. So you can have Google Ads track how many people click on the number, and you can even count those calls as conversions if they meet a certain criteria. For example, the criteria is somebody talks to you for a minimum of 60 seconds or 1 minute. Then Google will count that as a conversion. So you can monitor calls right in Google Ads, and it's a cost per click model, so you can actually see what the average cost per click is. So moving on, question 13. Okay, what is RLSA and how does it work? Well, RLSA stands for Remarketing List for Search Ads. So if you're familiar with remarketing on display, it's similar. They just call it RLSA. Okay, so it enables you, the advertiser, to customize your ads for people who have visited your site, just like a typical remarketing campaign. Okay, so you can tailor your bids and ads to these visitors when they're searching on Google and search partner sites. Okay, so there are two basic strategies for using RLSA. Okay, so you can optimize bids for existing keywords for visitors, or you can bid on keywords that you don't normally bid on, just for people who recently visited your site or converted on your site. The key here is you're the one that's picking the customer. You're the one that's enabling the list. If you're trying to target people who went to your site and didn't convert, well, you could certainly optimize your bids for existing keywords for people who went to your site and didn't convert, or you could set up a whole new campaign for RLSA and have a different set of keywords with a different ad, because you know who you're talking to. You're talking to somebody who's already been to your site. They know your brand. They just didn't purchase. And so this all happens on the search network. And that's the beauty of remarketing is, one, you know who your audience is because you're the one establishing that audience. And two, you're the one creating the ad. So you can talk directly to that audience when they see your ad again, in this case, on search. So that's RLSA, Remarketing List for Search Ads. I recommend pretty much any industry, any client, any customer run remarketing lists for search advertising and remarketing for display. So those are two key campaigns you should always recommend running to a client because, one, again, you're defining the audience. Two, you're the one that's talking directly to the audience because you know who the audience is. And three, if they see the ad and they click on it, again, because it's cost per click, then the chances of them converting are going to be higher because they've already been to your website. They know who you are. And so if they click on your ad again, then they must be interested. So those are all the benefits of running an RLSA campaign. Okay, so number 14, what types of audiences can be used in GDN, Google's display network? So a lot of different audiences here. Okay, so let's go through them. So you have affinity audiences. So basically, affinity audiences are basically what are people's interests and habits. What do they have an affinity for? Are there food sites, travel sites, shopping sites, fashion? Okay, so that's what affinity really relates to. Okay, then you have in-market, custom intent, life events. These are what they're researching or planning for. So again, it could be travel, it can be finance, etc. Okay, you have remarketing. We just went over that with the remarketing list for search advertising, RLSA. And so with the remarketing, it's an audience that has interacted with your website. So they either came from mobile and didn't convert, or a female came from mobile and didn't convert. So you're the one defining the audience there. You also have a similar audience. So this is what Google creates on your behalf. So these are users with a similar interest to your site visitors. So Google is monitoring the type of traffic that's coming to your site, and based on that traffic, they're going to create a similar audience. And then you have a custom match. So what you know about your customers' activities, basically. So these are all the different audience types, and you can see the different types of ads available. Okay, so notice the far right column, video ads. So video ads are available to every one of these audience types. Why? Because YouTube. So Google knows what people's interests and habits are based on the videos they watch. They know what they're looking for. Okay, they know that they've been to your website because they're cookied, so you can remarket them. Okay, so video ads are a very powerful tool for any one of these audience types. So next question, what are the types of keyword matching available in Google Ads? Okay, so this is a good question. Very important. If you're going to manage a Google Ads account and a campaign, you have to be aware of the different match types. You can't just go broad match. That's a sign of somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, is by bidding on a one keyword phrase. That's a short tail keyword. If you think back to SEO, we have our long tail and our short tail keywords. The worst thing you could do is bid on a keyword, short tail keyword that's broad match. Because what is broad match? Basically, broad match are keywords that appear when a user searches any word in the phrase. Now, you can define specifically what you want your ads to appear for in terms of keywords. And when I say specifically, you can use a phrase match. So phrase match are ads that appear only when a user searches for that exact keyword phrase in the precise order, but with some additional words in the beginning or at the end of the query. Okay, so usually these are sentences. So you could be, bidding on red Adidas running shoes. And somebody could type in, looking for red Adidas running shoes in Portland, Oregon, okay, as an example. Okay, so as long as red Adidas running shoes are in order in that keyword phrase, then your ad's going to appear because it's a phrase match. And then you could get really specific by doing an exact match. So exact match are keywords that are triggered only when that keyword and exactly that keyword phrase is queried. So if you do an exact match for red Adidas running shoes and somebody types in only red Adidas running shoes, then that's an exact match and your ad's going to appear. So let's take a look at these again. So you got broad match. Okay, we got a term cheap smartphone. So if somebody types in smartphone, cheap phone, smart mobile, phone cheap, any one of those combinations, your ad's going to appear. Now there's one thing you can do for broad match, and it's called broad match modifier. So you could put a plus sign in front of the keyword. For example, let's just say you really want to emphasize the word cheap. Okay, you're selling really inexpensive smartphones. Okay, not just any smartphone, but an inexpensive smartphone. So you can put a plus sign in front of cheap. And so if somebody puts in, just smartphone or smart mobile, your ad's not going to show up because the keyword query has to contain cheap. So anytime you put a plus in front of the keyword query you're bidding on, then that means that keyword has to be part of the keyword phrase. So that's a broad match modifier, if you will. And that prevents you from getting unwanted impressions. So we have phrase match, again, blue smartphone. So somebody could type in smartphone in blue color, cheap blue smartphone. Notice though, the second one where it says smartphone in blue color, your ad's not necessarily going to show up because guess what? Blue smartphone is the keyword query and the query here is not in that order. So remember, in order for you to show up for phrase match, the keyword has to be in that order. So I'm looking for a blue smartphone that is less than $100. Okay, that could be somebody's query. Blue smartphone was in that query in that order. So if somebody says looking for a smartphone that happens to be blue, less than $100, then your ad is not going to show up. So remember, it has to be in that precise order. One thing I want us to go back to on the phrase match, notice that there's quotes around the keyword. Anytime you see quotes around the keyword, that signifies it's a phrase match. Because if we look at exact match, notice there are brackets around the keyword red shoe. That signifies it's an exact match. So if you put brackets around a keyword, then you're signaling to Google that this is an exact match and I only want to show up for the keyword red shoe. Well, the only option that will work here is the second one, red shoes. Okay, so because that's an exact match. Okay, so disregard the first and the third one because shoe and red color is not going to work and footwear that's red is not going to work because this is an exact match. So you're saying I only want to show up for the keyword red shoe. And Google recognizes plurals and singulars together. So if somebody did type in red shoes, then your ad is going to show up. Okay, so moving on, what are some of the reasons as to why your ads could have been rejected? It happens to the best of us. And if you're writing ads and they get rejected, it could be for a number of reasons. So at the end of the day, you're violating Google's advertising policies. So some of the policies that could have been violated are, and just some of the many, we're just listing some here, prohibited content. prohibited practices, restricted content, or editorial and technical. So when you look at prohibited content, I will say this, you're not going to be able to sell drugs. Even if you're selling pharmaceutical products, that's considered drugs, and that's going to be prohibited. Or prohibited practices, like selling drugs online, that's illegal in the state. So you're going to definitely get flagged for that. Okay, so there are a lot of different ways in which your ads can be disapproved, okay? But if you do see restricted content, then that means you can advertise, but with limitations. And usually those limitations are restricted to, say, only Google search and not Google search partners, or to a specific geography. So usually the key here is, if somebody asks this question, okay, there are a lot of different reasons. Google is usually going to provide the specific or the reason why it got disapproved. And they're usually going to include a link that you can refer to. Okay, so at least Google does that much. They're not going to leave you in the dark and tell you your ad's just been disapproved. They're going to tell you why and include a link that you can go to figure out how you can best resolve the disapproved ad. So what are the different kinds of bidding available in Google Ads? So we already covered part of this earlier on. So remember, Google Search Network is only cost per click, CPC. When we talk about Google's display network, you have three options: cost per click, cost per view, and cost per impression. And CPM is cost per 1,000 impressions. So you're paying per 1,000 impressions. Impression is when somebody actually sees your ad. Cost per view is actually somebody looking at your ad for at least 30 seconds or the entirety of the ad. So if the video ad only runs 15 seconds and somebody watched the entirety, then you're going to pay per cost per view. So if your video is 2 minutes long and somebody watched 30 seconds, you're going to pay cost per view. Okay, so again, let's go through these. Cost per click. It just enables you to set up a maximum price on the cost of somebody clicking on your advertisement. You only pay when somebody clicks on your ad. Okay, cost per view. Again, this is the default method to set the price you'll pay for your video ads. Okay, you only pay when a viewer watches your video advertisement for at least 30 seconds. And then cost per 1,000 impressions. So this is the amount you pay each time your ad is displayed in the search network. And you pay for impressions that are generated for your ad, and you're paying for every 1,000 impressions. So the M is actually the Roman numeral for 1,000. So that's where the M part comes in. So you're paying for 1,000 impressions. So every 1,000 eyeballs, you're going to pay a price. And so cost per impression is good for brand awareness. If you're trying to generate a lot of eyeballs onto your brand, then you'd want to go with a CPM model. Okay, so question 18, what are some automatic bidding strategies? So let's define automatic bidding strategy. Automatic bidding allows Google take over. Okay, not you. Google's taking over, and they're the ones setting the bid amounts automatically. And it's going to be based on criteria. And that criteria is going to be centered around conversions. So if Google bids on your behalf automatically, basically what they're doing is they're collecting data on the behavior of your ads. And so if your ad is likely to get the click or conversion, then Google is going to set the bid amount so you can win that auction in order to get the click or the conversion. So there are different types of bidding strategies. But remember, you have to align a bidding strategy with the strategy of the campaign. So for example, if your goal of the campaign is to increase site visitors, you just want people to click on your ad and go to your website, then you're going to have an automated bidding strategy of maximize clicks. That aligns with your campaign strategy. So this strategy automatically sets your bids to help to get as many clicks as possible within your budget. So Google is going to do its best based on historical performance of the campaign to generate traffic to your site. That's the goal. That's the bid strategy. Okay, let's take a look at some others. So, hey, the goal of our strategy campaign is to increase visibility. So that's an easy one. Remember, cost per impressions. Hey, we want to maximize how many people look at our ads. Okay, so target impression share. So this bidding strategy allows your bids to show at the top of the page. Okay, so you're getting the impression, so people are able to look at your ad. Okay, so you're telling Google, hey, I want to be shown at least 50% of the time when somebody types in a keyword that I'm bidding on. So they're going to make sure that they meet your target impression share of 50%. So they're going to set your bids automatically to make sure your ad shows at the top of the page so it's seen at least 50% of the time. That's the goal of the campaign. That's the bidding strategy goal. We set up a campaign to drive conversions. So there are a couple of bidding strategies against conversions. So target CPA. So this strategy sets a search or display bid to get as many conversions as possible, but there's a caveat here. Cost per acquisition is what CPA stands for. So we're trying to get as many conversions as possible, but at a certain cost. For example, if I'm selling t-shirts for $10, do I want to pay $20 CPA for every sale? Do I want to pay Google $20? No. I'd be losing money. I'd be out of business. Okay, so if I'm selling t-shirts for $10 on my website, I'm probably going to put the CPA about $2 or $3 again, depending on my cost of goods. So if I factor in my cost of goods, I'm trying to make a profit, then I'm going to tell Google, look, I'm trying to get some sales, but I don't want to lose money getting the sales. So you're going to put in a threshold, and that threshold is your target CPA. And so Google's going to automatically bid and win the auction for keywords when they feel those keywords can get you a target CPA that you put in. For example, $2. Okay, so the goal of our campaign is to meet a target return on ad spend, meaning return on advertising spend, meaning we're getting more revenue than we're spending. That ratio needs to be positive. So Google's going to help us, again, adjust our bids to make sure that our return on advertising spend meets our criteria. So we could put a ROAS as 100%, 200%, etc. And Google's going to adjust our bids accordingly based on the keyword that they think will meet that criteria of 100% or 200%. So that's target return on advertising spend. And that's there to see if Google can help you generate a profit. So we have another campaign set up. We're trying to get more conversions. We have a budget. We want to spend the budget, but we want to get conversions. So this is a gimme. The bidding strategy here would be maximize conversions. So this strategy sets bids like all the others. It automatically is going to adjust your bid. That is Google. It's going to adjust the bid to help you win the auction based on historical performance. So if a keyword historically has performed in terms of conversions, you better believe Google's going to try and win the auction on your behalf to get the click, to get that conversion. And that's maximize conversions. Okay, moving on, question 19. And this is probably the most important question that you're going to get. If an interview asks you this question, this is what Google Ads is all about, quality score. So what is quality score? So simply put, quality score is a score between 1 and 10, given to every keyword you've been on. And basically between 1 and 10, it's Google's giving you the score, the quality score of that keyword. And so how does Google come up with that score between 1 and 10? Well, there's 3 main factors here. One is expected click-through rate, the second is ad relevance, and the third is landing page experience. So obviously a higher quality score, the better off you are. Okay, a low quality score, it's not going to bode well for you. And so if you have a low quality score, Google actually will tell you which of these 3 components you're not scoring very well on. So you're either going to get a below average, average, or above average for each of these 3 components that make up quality score. And I will tell you this, if I were to divide them up into thirds, click-through rate, expected click-through rate is more important than the other 2. So that's about 2/3 of quality score. An expected click-through rate is basically Google saying, look, other advertisers have bid on this keyword and their click-through rate has been historically around, say, for example, 3%. So if you can't get 3%, then your quality score is going to suffer. Ad relevance is simply, does the ad or is the ad relevant to the keyword you're bidding on? Likewise for the landing page. But the landing page experience is a little bit more subjective because the landing page has to load well, fast, no pop-ups, a lot of external links, nothing spammy, no ads being served up. So a lot of factors in landing page experience. Google wants to make sure somebody clicks on your ad that they're going to have a good experience when they land on that page. And so quality score is so key here. It is very key because if you don't have a good quality score, the repercussion means you're going to have to bid higher, because quality score times bid equals ad rank. So for every auction, whoever has the highest ad rank is going to be at the top of Google search results. So if you have a low quality score, let's just say 1, and you're bidding $4 on that keyword, then your ad rank is 4. 1 times 4 is 4. So you got to keep that in mind, because other advertisers could have a higher ad rank or better quality scores for that keyword. So again, expected click-through rate. This just shows how likely it is that your ads will get clicked when shown for a particular keyword. Google expects a certain number here. You should always try to achieve the highest click-through rate possible. And click-through rate is simply how many times your ad was seen versus how many times it was clicked. That's all click-through rate is. Clicks divided by impressions. So you should always try to achieve the highest click-through rate possible. That will avoid getting a low quality score. Ad relevance. So ad relevance simply means how relevant is your keyword to the ad. Okay, so if you're bidding on red Adidas running shoes, then make sure your ad discusses and mentions multiple times, naturally, red Adidas running shoes. Okay, and remember, with those text ads, you have 3 headlines. You have 2 description lines of up to 90 characters. You have site extensions. Okay, you have path 1 and path 2. That meaning you can add additional keywords to the end of a URL. So you have lots of opportunities to make sure the ad is relevant to the keyword. And then landing page experience. Again, this is a little subjective, but hey, Google's going to use landing page experience to estimate how relevant and useful your website's landing page will be to people who not only click on your web, but land on that page. So does that page load fast? Does it have any unnecessary pop-ups? Does it have some quirky external links that look spammy? Okay, you got to take all these things into consideration and think about the end user here. And then last question for search engine marketing. So what are the hallmarks of a good PPC landing page? So going back to landing page experience, this is a good segue. So you always want to make sure you have an attractive and powerful headline on the page. Remember, it's got to be a nice flow. You're bidding on a keyword. Somebody types in the keyword. They see your attractive ad. They click on that attractive ad, which has the keyword in it. They click on the ad, they go to the landing page. They want to be able to see something very similar to what they typed in, the ad they saw. They want to be able to see it seamlessly on the landing page. And so that attractive and powerful headline should include that keyword. Should also have persuasive copy that can convince prospects to convert. To me, bullet points always work here. Simple bullet points, easy to read, easy to understand, easy to just convey the positives about what you're trying to sell or convert. Have engaging media like videos. Videos always help because they're interactive. It keeps people engaged longer. Or have some really good images. Don't just go stock photography. Complement the video with some images. And then your landing pages should have enough white space to draw attention to specific elements on the page, and meaning don't cram the page together, because remember, users are also coming to these pages via mobile. So you got to take that in consideration as well. So cramming your pages full of content, videos, and images is probably not going to bode well. So make sure there's breathing room for people to read, understand, and react. And those are hallmarks of a good PPC landing page. Some other factors here. Adding trust indicators like some statistical evidence, meaning how many people downloaded your app. You can always have testimonials, third-party sales of approval like Better Business Bureau, privacy policy links help. Okay, so you want to add some things in there that's going to, give you credibility. Okay. Having a properly designed lead capture form to collect visitors' information is always helpful. If you're trying to get that conversion, then have a lead form. Make it simple. Don't have a lead form with 20 forms or fields. Have a simple name, email address, make the phone number optional, and have one field that they can type in specific information. And then last but certainly not least, have a good call to action. So make sure that call to action aligns with what you're trying to do. Again, you're selling those red Adidas running shoes. If they're on sale, then make sure the call to action aligns with that sale. You can always say, 20% off for the next 2 days, or $10 off if you purchase today. So have some good, strong call to action.
Here we wrap up this video, and if you have any queries regarding any concept in the video, feel free to add it in the comment section below. And our experts will be happy to help you. Do subscribe to Simplilearn to stay updated with the new technology trends, and thanks for watching.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.